To be noble, we must be honest. And to be honest, it is necessary to be completely free from the web of omissions and curated political verbiage, which is ever appropriate, a safe harbor which is filled with niceties and appropriate things, but no true meat or substance. There are some who are clever in the art of deception, such as those versed in the art of being lawyers, who can communicate a great deal, while ensuring that they have said nothing. This is not to say that we must have no privacy in our personal lives or dealings with others. To the contrary, it is important that we respect ourselves enough to gatekeep those things which are sensitive, personal, and private. Yet gates and walls, also, are by their very existence honest about their intent. There is a nobility in minding one's own business, and making it clear to those prying eyes and listening ears that there is such a thing as a sanctuary where they are not welcome. But privacy should not be concealment for a lack of integrity or strong fundamentals in our lives. Nor should we make an effort to appear transparent to create the illusion of openness while being disingenuous to that end. Our yes should be yes, our no should be no. And on that ledger of personal, intimate knowledge, which we hold within that citadel of our mind's private discretion, we should have room for no inconsistencies. We should respect ourselves enough to be open-minded in the pursuit of truth, to as much as possible discern it for ourselves, even if sometimes that truth feels inconvenient. This is not to say that every truth must be shared with the world, yet we should never conceal it from ourselves. It has been said that it is easier to deceive people than it is to convince them that they are deceived. This illustrates the fact that when we hide the truth from ourselves by refusing to think about it and face it, eventually our own made-up narrative, even if we once knew it to be false, becomes what we behold as our definition of truth. As ostriches who hide their heads in the sand, thinking that because they cannot see their danger, it does not exist. We as human creatures possess a great capacity for self-deception, and so, as we speak about honesty, it is important for us to remember that there are two types of honesty: the things we say to others and the things we convince ourselves. We should not live to deceive others, but worse than deceiving others deliberately is to do so without knowing it. I am reminded of the character of Uncle Andrew in C.S. Lewis' The Magician's Nephew. He beheld, in a magical world, animals who could speak. But because he refused to believe that animals could speak, he chose not to believe that which was happening right before him. Then, having convinced himself of his own disbelief, he ceased to be able to understand their words, and perceived from that moment onward only undecipherable commotion. When I say that we should live our lives in a way that is truthful, I do not mean that we should always do what others think we ought to do. This does not mean that we must conform in every way to the expectations of society, but we should be consistent with our own standards, and we should always have the courage to look deeply into the well of truth and keep our eyes open, no matter what we see. When we believe that there is a certain thing which is right for us to do, we should be true to that, consistent with its premise, unyielding in the determination to avoid contradictions and the urge to build foundations upon unstable sands. When it comes to relationships, it can be easier than you might think to indulge in all sorts of facts which are indeed true, and to tell no lies, and to make no effort to deceive, and yet to omit from the sharing those spiritual matters which are ever important, yet difficult to measure on any balance sheet or formal declaration. We can tell others all that there is to know of that which is physical and measurable, yet stop short of opening our heart or showing vulnerability. Yet truth is the simplest of all things, because it exists even if we do nothing, whether we acknowledge it or not. Perhaps, at the heart of this truth, which I refer to, there also is tradition, the belief and acceptance that there is a code of conduct in the affairs of men and women, which ought to be regarded as a thing both wholesome and sacred, a value which is designed to separate us from all the lesser animals. That code might take many forms and be known in many ways. I cannot tell you exactly what form it should take for you, but I know what it means to me. Even if I have no words for it, I know it is important. But if there were just one word which could encapsulate all the virtue and worth of every sacred thing in the legacy of mankind, that word would be truth. How then do we seek truth? I would say that we should seek it in all those things which serve as emblems of truth, things which inspire us to be better, or teach us new things which broaden our perspective or enrich our spirit. When evil confronts us, we should face it with discipline and resolute firmness. But most of all, we should choose not to let it into our hearts. Sometimes there is evil which we must address during our lives, but it does not need to be ushered in or dwelt upon either. We don't need to tell everyone our position, but we should nevertheless be firm in our position. We should not be too stubborn to change our position when reason calls upon us to do so. But we should also have the conviction to hold without doubt or wavering, to believe in the beauty of our dreams. As we pursue truth in all its living forms, engaging on the grand adventure of its pursuit, our path of discovery might take any number of different forms. Perhaps for some, it is physical adventure marked by wind on sails, as those who traversed the known world in the age of discovery. For others, perhaps more likely for us, that adventure may be more virtual and more personal, expressed with ink on paper, for those who seek truth a bit closer to home. Yet, however we seek it, May truth, honesty, transparency, and integrity guide us in all of our actions throughout the adventure of our lives. Thank you for watching.